So picking up in chapter 10 again, I wanted to set all of that so we had a feel for what he's doing. Paul has been going through all of this talking about Jesus. There's no one like Jesus. There's no one like Jesus. Don't go back to the old ways. Come to Jesus. Come to Jesus. Don't go back. Don't get hung up in your traditions. Don't get hung up in your customs. Come and be with Jesus. There is no other way. And so as he picks this up in verse 23, he says, let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promises faithful. If there's a single verse that captures all of the book of Hebrews, it's this one. Thus the long setup, right? Thank you for not going to sleep while I did that. But let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. So this whole thing, it can be summed up by a simple word, perseverance. And for those of us across the pond, perseverance. Perseverance. It's hanging in there. It's easier to spell when you say it that way. So it's hanging in there. It's not giving up. It's 2 hours after everyone else has gone home, and there's only one guy standing there to hold the door open for you. It's finishing the race. It's finishing the race. It's hanging in there. Let us hold fast the confession. We know that word fast, right? It means not slow. That one fell flat. And so it means that grip, right? And believe it or not, the word fast is related to our uniquely American word, to fix. To fix means to reattach something. I'm not going to go off on attachment. That would be dangerous. But it means to reattach something, to repair it. That's the idea. And so perseverance and holding fast is we're going to grip this, and we're not going to let go. We are bonded to this. We're not going to give up. We're going to finish the race. I have a goal, eyes on the prize. I'm not going to stop. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope. Look at Romans chapter 5. I'll bet you knew I was going to go there. And they're holding their breath that I would go to this verse. Romans chapter 5. We're going to bounce around. I got a lot of verses. Everybody's had so many verses, but I don't really care. I like verses. So, Romans chapter 5, I'll just pick up with verse 1. He says, therefore, having been justified by faith, we have what? Peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. So this is an established relationship. He goes on to reinforces that. Through whom Jesus also, we have obtained our introduction by faith into this grace in which we what? Do you hear the perseverance there? There's a stability. There's this firmness. I'm standing in this. And we exult in the hope of the glory of God. And he starts this thing that I like to call the hope cycle. And it's a circle, but it's actually a spiral. One end you can look at it, you could see a circle, but you turn it the other way, you can see that this is climbing. There's progress being made here. So he says, into the hope of the glory of God. Starts with hope. And not only this, not just hope, but we also exult in the tribulations. I really don't like that part of the verse. Because I want everything to be smooth and soft and gentle and easy, because I am a soft, fat American, and I don't like things being tough. Everyone here except Conway, he's one of the toughest guys I know. But anyway, we don't want to exult in our tribulations because we don't want the tribulations. We like the exulting part. But we can exult in our tribulations, knowing the tribulation brings about what? Perseverance. See, there's this thing about perseverance we have to know. God expects us to persevere, but he expects us to experience it like Jesus did. Remember, it also says in other places in the Bible that Jesus learned obedience through the things that he suffered. He learned obedience. Does that mean that Jesus was not obedient before that? No. No, it's not the kind of learning. It's one thing to say, I've read about it in a book. It's another thing to have gone there, experienced it. It's a whole different thing. It's one thing to read about having a child. It's a whole other thing to actually have a child. Been there, done that. I know what that's like. It's not that you weren't capable of it, but having gone through that, over that threshold, through that gate, it changes you and you're not the same. So what he wants us to do is he wants us to experience this perseverance. Now we're going to talk a little bit as we get into this, but one of the things that happens when we come to Christ, when we are truly born again, when we really believe him, is he transforms us. We talked about that last week. He transforms us. He writes his law in our hearts and on our minds, and so we're no longer the same. It is now natural. It is the written code in the system now that causes us to walk after God, to live for him. At the same time, so that's a guarantee. So you will persevere. And if you're straying a little too far, he knows exactly which knothole to pull your sorry hide through so that you come back onto line the way you're supposed to be. And it's not because he's being cruel or he's some horrible person up in heaven with a hammer just waiting for you to get out of line and takes some kind of sadistic delight in your failure so he can hit you. That is not what God is like at all. He knows there's destruction in those ways. He knows there's pain there. He knows there is shame and failure there. There's discouragement. There's confusion, chaos there. And if we're not understanding that, he knows exactly how to pull us back so we're right on line. And even though it may be harsh sometimes, generally it's not, but sometimes what it is, it's because he loves us. And we'll get into that when we get to chapter 12. The hard thing about Hebrews is everything is stuck to everything else. And it's really hard to talk about one piece without talking about all of it all at once. So pray for me. Which means you're praying for yourself, so I don't try to do that and we never get out of here. Anyway,